Well, we
Good.
have another author joining us today on Primetime Local News. Today I have Emil Rem speaking with me. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Well, let's talk about the book of yours, your latest book. It is called Heart of New York. Tell me a little bit about the book.
It started as a personal challenge to myself. I started writing when I was 60, which is a very young age to start. And the first book I wrote was about a beautiful island called Cyprus in the Mediterranean during summer, a place I love to go, the people I love to meet. And it was something I always wanted to write, and I wrote it. So then I convinced myself that I could write other books. And I said to myself, before you do that, convince yourself that you can write. So what I did was I said to myself, choose the worst subject that you can think of to write about. If you can stick to it and write a book and you can sell it, then yes, you're a wonderful author and a writer and you're on your way. So the worst holiday I ever had was in New York in winter. Normally we go with the whole family because we don't have any relatives in Calgary. We were both immigrants, one from the Philippines, one from Africa. So we decided to go to the Bahamas. Every year, and that one year, my youngest son became a goth. He was a rapper, and he wanted to go to Harlem at Christmas time. So there we are, missing a wonderful summer break vacation from the winter in Calgary, and we ended up in New York. And I didn't like the place at all, and yet my whole view of New York completely turned around to what it was at the beginning. And so I wrote the book. A lot of people complained because a lot of my friends who I sent the book to were used to a travel log,
Mhm.
beautiful scenery, warm weather, interesting people. My books are always about contrasting. So the contrasts I used in the book were the people I met in New York to the people I had in Calgary. But both locations were miserable and cold and wet during winter, and that brought out a whole lot of, instead of travelogues, it brought up a whole bunch of talking about values in people, looking at gray areas in life of morals, and how, when you read that book, how you put yourself into that position and choose what you think you would do in that situation. So at the beginning, I had all kinds of comments from my friends telling me to pack up and go home because why was this such a miserable story? Why was it so cold? Why are you writing about miserable New York in the middle of winter? Why are you writing about Calgary in winter? And they kept on at me. But then halfway through those stories, I sent them a chapter every time I did them. Halfway through that, one of them came to me. He spent half an hour criticizing one of my characters. Now I said, "You don't like the book. You don't like the character. Why are you spending half an hour discussing this story?" "Well, because he did this wrong. He did that wrong." I said, "Now you understand what the book is about. It's not another travelogue. It's there putting you into a place where you have to make a decision of what you believe is right or wrong for yourself."
And so is it a collection of stories then, of different stories?
Yes, I'm very lazy, so I don't like writing more than 12 chapters. The 12 chapters weren't enough for a book, or even really, it was under 30,000 words, so it was for almost less than a novella. So I decided to use local people to draw, illustrate each chapter and the cover. Spent a lot of time on the cover, which is absolutely gorgeous, and I was extremely happy with it. So by the time we put the fillers in, I also do things like author's notes, which everybody criticized. So at the end of each chapter is a story of its own, but when they combine together, you can understand that it's a story. So when I started to do this, people complained, "Why are you doing an author's notes?" Now in my following books, they keep asking for the author's notes, and the author's notes were really things like why I wrote the story, why was it important to me, and what happened to some of the characters that were in that story, and what happened to them in the end. So that's what I've done. So I've got illustrations, I've got quotes from the book from the illustrator who never read books, but he loved this book, and he did all those, or she loved this book and did all the illustrations for it, and that's what the story is about.
And so what is next then? Are you going to continue to do this style of writing or have you decided where you go after here?
Oh no. Since my father worked on the airlines and he would send me free airline tickets to travel all over the world. So I went on my own since the age of 12. None of my family had any money. I get a wad of tickets. I get a little bag full of clothes that will be put into, not into the hole, but carry with me as cabin luggage. And I didn't know where I was going to go. One, I'd have a ticket to go to Mexico. I have a ticket to go to Russia. I'd have a ticket somewhere else. Whatever came, I went there. So all I've been to a lot of countries, and now I'm being able to write about them. And originally, the books were written to be able to inspire my kids because my kids had a very um, comfortable and safe environment. They were born in Calgary. They never really left Calgary. Went abroad with us when we traveled every summer. And so they never really had any kind of a hard life. I was taken out. My parents divorced when I was 4 out of Africa. My mum couldn't speak English. She brought me over to England. I spent my time with an English foster parent. And so I had all kinds of obstacles to get through in life. And I wanted them to understand that that was the history.
Well, this is a fascinating book, and we look forward to hearing more from you in the future. If people are looking to purchase it and look at more of your work, Emil, where do they find it?
Emilrem.ca, EMIL Rem, REM.ca, and they should go to the Analect section. There's a pop-up, which is really my blogs on topics I write every week, and they should subscribe for a free chapter when the pop-up comes.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll be chatting with you again sometime soon.
I really appreciate your time as well. Thank you.